Welcome to another video. My name is Alpha, and there's tons of amazing Pokemons out there, and they're really good, and today we'll be highlighting the 3 strongest Pokemons from each region. Obviously, we'll be leaving out legendaries and mega evolutions, and also pseudo-legends, which are Pokemons with stat totals of 600 or more. If we did leave them in, they would be all over this list, but nevertheless, I want to give you 3, in my opinion, the strongest Pokemons per region. But before we start, I would like to ask you to comment your 3 strongest Pokemons from each region, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. Also, quickly, I want to say thank you to PokeDan for letting me use his idea for this video. Let's begin in the beginning with some Kanto Pokemons. Whoa. Firstly, Starmie is a very strong Pokemon. Psychic and Water is a phenomenal typing, especially in Generation 1, where Psychic is an overpowered typing. Even the likes of Executor was a high tier Pokemon in this gen. As well, Starmie has such a large range of moves, from Thunderbolt to Ice Beam to utility moves like Recover and Rapid. And overall, it has been such a big threat throughout so many generations. And next up, Alakazam. This thing is too strong for its own good, and if it wasn't a trade evolution, it would be probably the most used Pokemon in single player in Generation 1, I would bet. No need for the explanation, to be honest. It can learn a decent amount of type coverage moves, but real no need for that either. Alakazam's signature move, Psychic, it will put a huge dent into anything not named a Chansey with Psychic. And finally, absolutely, Gyarados is one monster serpent, having a very interesting typing, which had to be changed prior to Red and Blue being released, which would have made it the first Pokemon with no weaknesses, because Dragon Rage was the only dragon move in Generation 1, and Gyarados was set to be a dragon type. But it was changed, and it's still incredibly powerful with the water flying. It's a bit weaker to a lot, however, it is such a prime example of setup and go with Dragon Dance, or even put a Z move on it and just nuke any Pokemon for massive damage. This thing is incredibly strong, and I, for one, this is definitely up there for my favorite Generation 1 Pokemon. Going in chronological order, Generation 2 would be next, and boy, there's so many monsters. First, we have easily Typhlosion. Though it did not leave much of a mark in competitive, it left its mark in single player, being the overwhelming powerhouse advantage for its beginning part of the game, the only real counter to Bugsy's Scyther as a starter. Speaking of Scyther, its evolution has to be on this list as well, having only one weakness, being fire, and it is a defensive wall that a lot of Pokemon cannot say they can match, and if they can match, they cannot match its power. Even without its signature move Swords Dance, it still has a powerful offensive stat and ability. And Generation 2 just seems to have the strongest bug types in the world, because finally we have Heracross. Everyone loves Heracross. It can't do anything wrong. Also, it had the strongest move for the longest time in the game as its signature move, which was Mega Horn, which can shred through the OP powerhouse psychic typing Pokemons with the strongest move. Well, and 2 further moves blew past its power, which was, psychic moves. Mewtwo is up there. That's a pretty good Pokemon if you guys haven't tell. Still a very strong move, Mega Horns. So cannot leave this Pokemon out of the strongest Pokemon from each region list. Of course, next up is Generation 3, which is tough because this is where Game Freak started to drop bangers of Pokemon. Let's start off with Flygon, the monster dragon ground type Pokemon, which gets overshadowed by my favorite Pokemon, Garchomp. But being outclassed by Garchomp doesn't mean you're bad. It was the replacement once Garchomp got banned in Generation 4. It left its mark in the meta staple. Next, we gotta include Milotic. Very slow, but this thing does not die in one hit. I promise you, nothing can kill it in one hit, it feels. Nothing super effective, nothing neutral that hits hard. This thing just lives no matter what. The worst feeling is fighting Wallace or Juan and you barely didn't kill their Milotic and they full restore right in front of you, and you gotta try to put it down while it's hitting you with hard enough moves like Hydro Pump or Scald, because it has a decent amount of special attack, so it's enough to be a threat. Quite a wild card on this list for the next one, but I want to include Wailord. Why? Because this thing has a monstrous move called Water Spout. Very few Pokemons have this. Wailord being, no joke, the so-called mini Kyogre with its Water Spouts, barrages. My favorite generation, which is obviously Generation 4, and the first Pokemon would be Weavile. I love this Pokemon. One of the very rare strong ice type Pokemon. It is an underdog in my opinion, and it is super strong. Ice type moves have always been an amazing, outstanding offensive threat, and with its dark typing though, it makes it 4 times weak to fighting. However, it gives a bit more resistance and more options to be useful against the bigger threats. Following that, the next Pokemon on the list is Infernape. The very unique firefighting starter has an actually unique offense, both capable of physical and special attacks, or even both. Not to mention its ground coverage with Grass Knight. Beautiful Pokemon. But Staraptor is always slept on, and it needs to be on this list of the strongest Pokemon, because this thing is a wall breaker. The first useful bird before Swellow got its ability, and even when Swellow did get its ability, Staraptor got a boost to his own moves as well, having Reckless, which boosts recoil moves power, and also both its main offensive moves are recoil moves, Double Edge and Brave Bird. This thing is nuts. Next up is the very underrated Gen 5, the largest roster of Pokemon. So many monsters here as well. I think it would be disrespectful to not include this Pokemon, which is Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is a brick wall, cannot break this thing, and sometimes even lives super effective moves, even sometimes fire moves. HP Fire can also be lived by this thing, which is 4 times a week. Very useful, not fun to play against, but great when you are using. And if we're talking about power, Archeops is up there, though its Achilles heel is its ability which holds it back because it's weak to Stealth Rock and it'll be whittled down quite quickly. But it is a walking, well, flying nuke out there, and it can break almost anything. But the GOAT of Generation 5 for this list has to be Excadrill. Unlimited usage, being a sweeper or a wall or a utility Pokemon for rocks and rapid spin. It's amazing with just that alone, but its ability have their uses as well, both Mold Breaker and Sand Rush. Well, overall amazing, and all of these are overall amazing Pokemon, but there's so many Pokemon that are super strong in every generation that I wish I could add. I take back what I said about Generation 5 being underrated, because this is very underrated. Generation 6 is a godsend and people overlook it. Made a video on it, check it out. Anyways, this very small roster has a very little amount of Pokemons, not to mention some are cut off because of the rules of this video, but easily there's so many monster Pokemons out there, so I have to pick the strongest 3. So let's start with, well, Talonflame. This was a big staple in the meta, while it beating the odds of being useful for having such a crippling Fire Flying typing. Fire Flying can never ever work unless Game Freak cherishes you and gives you 2 Mega Evolutions that are broken. But Talonflame broke the odds without Mega Evolutions. Got a different gift, infinite priority with Gale Wings. Well, until it got nerfed, but during this time it got 120 power Brave Birds that will, no matter what, go first, even if you outspeed, which is scary. Then following that would be the ultimate weapon of Aegislash, the perfect theoretically made Pokemon, because it can live basically anything and kill anything, attack with such force. The only thing that slows it down is its speed. Oh, never mind. It has Swords Dance and Shadow Sneak. Never mind, it's covered, guys. And let's wrap it up with the final Pokemon, which is Greninja, the beast itself having 2 powerful abilities that can make it essentially a Mega Evolution Pokemon, or have an infinite typing Pokemon with its ridiculous move pool. How can you say this thing is not broken? Oh yeah, it has this move called Water Stricken. You know, it always goes first, and you know, it's just kind of broken. You didn't know. To end off the video, we have Generation 7. Now limiting myself to none legendaries, no megas, nor ultra beasts, and no pseudo legendaries. This is a bit harder, so let's start easy with Toxapex, the wall god and the perfect partner to set up with Ferrothorn as a wall buddy. Also, it has regenerated, so you just switch out, and look, 33% of your health is back, which is so dumb. Impressively enough, while I look through the roster of Generation 7, Minior is actually a fun name I like. It's very strong because it wields this very powerful move called Shell Smash, and it's quite defensive in its meteor form, and then it can hold its own for a bit and then nuke you. And finally, Mimikyu has to top this Generation 7 part, because, well, basically having an almost guaranteed free turn to do whatever you want. Not to mention it has priority and also has a fairy typing, which fairy types are pretty broken in itself. It has Play Rough, Shadow Sneak, Shadow Claw, Swords Dance. It can put a real dent into any team that messes up when facing off against it. Well, that has been the video. I want to thank you for watching all the way to the end. I want to ask again to leave a like and subscribe if you are not already. Comment what your 3 strongest Pokemons are from each region. And also thank you again, and I'm out.